friends, welcome to Tarun IS. Today we will be discussing current affairs of 19th of October 2022. So let's start with the first news of the day. The first news is about the plant-based meat. Now we know there are people, there are vegetarian people, there are non-vegetarian people still sensitive towards, extra sensitive towards and there are people who are vegan in nature. So keeping in mind the demand of all these people from these different categories, there are many companies who are exploring this new trend, which is the plant based meat. Now we will be talking about what this plant based meat is, and let's see the context. It has made headlines because many Bollywood actor couple, they are endorsing such companies who are into the business of manufacturing, who are in this business of making plant-based meat. And the example has been given of the cricketer M S Dhoni, who has picked up equity stake in this company called Shaka Harry, and they make these plant-based meat. Now, what are these plant-based meat? Basically, they replicate, or you can say they biomimic, or they replicate the meat when it comes to the taste, that is the flavor, and when it comes to the aroma, that peculiar, that smell, which aroma that the meat and the non-vegetarian product has. So they biomimic or they replicate the taste and the aroma of seafood, meat, eggs, milk derived from the animals, etc., by looking, smelling, and tasting just like them. Now let's talk about that. How are they made? Now basically, in order to replicate the plant-based meat, we have to first understand what the animal meat is. So basically, animal meat, it contains protein, fat, itami sugar, minerals, and water, just like plant. However, and using this biochemical similarity, one would find analogous in the plant kingdom, or making them through the mechanical, chemical, or biological treatment of such ingredients. So basically, the companies, they find the analogous, or they even make it in the laboratory. That is why it is also known as a lab made meat. Alright, however, the challenge is replicating the muscle tissue. Now plants don't have this unique spatial arrangement of the proteins, and that the animal meat and the animal and the distinct pattern and the spatial arrangement that animal meat is. However, this is one challenge. But as for plant, the dairy, the main products are the plant-based dairy. Now what happens in plant-based dairies? India is the largest producer of the milk and as well as the consumer, which we derive from the cattle. We have sheep, camel, buffalo, cow, etc. However, the plant-based dairy products are derived from the milk of oats, soya bean, almonds, coconut, and rice. Alright. Now let's talk about that. What is the investment in this industry, and how big this plant-based meat industry is. According to the Good Food Institute in Washington DC, retail sales of plant-based animal products alternatives in the US, they stood at about $7.4 billion in 2021. In India, this industry does not have a very big market, because considering the per capita income a person utilizes on food, and especially when it comes to the vegan food like soya milk and etc., these are very expensive in nature and out of the reach of a common man. So that's why this industry and is not it's not growing in India, or you can say as for now it is not growing. And most Indians, they have this preference for the natural milk, and which is the classic superior food for India. Let's move on to the second news. The second news is about that the Gujarat Biotechnology Research Center has recently detected the first case of the Omicron Sub-variant BF7 in India. Now, this BF7 is the latest subvariant, which was first detected in the China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, and it is also known as the Omicron spawn. The fast spreading variant has been identified in countries such as US, UK, Australia, and Belgium. Being a subvariant of Omicron BA5, this BA7 has enhanced immunity evasion in comparison to its parental strain. Now that means those people who have even taken the injection or immunity vaccine against the coronavirus and COVID-19, they are still susceptible to be infected with the BF7. And let's see the symptoms which are associated with the BF7 subvariant. They are very similar to the subvariant, that is BA5, and it includes headache, persistent cough, changes in the smell, chest pain, hearing loss, shaking, abdominal pain, and diarrhea, runny nose, sore throat, and fatigue. Let's move on to the third news of the day. Third news is about the 6 new species of the spider which have been found across the country. Now recently these arachnologists are basically the people who specializes in studying the spider. Spider falls into the order of arachnid, and that's why they are known as arachnologists. And the arachnologists from the Center for Animal Taxonomy and Ecology, Kerala, they have identified 6 new species of spider from across the country, including hills in the Meghalaya, the Thar Desert of the Rajasthan, the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary, the Kotapara Hills of University of Calicut campus. Now let's see how the what are the discoveries made. The first spider that was spotted from the Garo Hills has been named as Siamsipinops garoensis. These belong to the family of the flat spiders, and you don't have to remember the scientific name, just remember that the 6 spiders have been found. Jumping spider, they belonging to this family Salticidae, they have been found from the desert and the Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary. 2 spiders here. The feather-leg spider belonging to Uloboridae has been found, and the skinny-leg spiders belonging to Oxyopidae has been found from the university campus. Alright, so this is how the discovery has been made. These are the pictures of the spider. You can have a look at it. Let's move on to the 4th news of the day. The 4th news is about the study which was published by the IISC, that is Indian Institute of Science, and it talks about that how the grazing animals are key to the soil carbon stability. Now we know that soil is the richest and the largest reservoir for the carbon, and this is also known as the soil carbon. Now, what is this soil carbon? Basically, the decomposing component, the detritus food chain, forms this soil carbon. The studies revealed that the grazing animals, they hold key to long-term soil carbon stability. The study has given example of this yak and ibex. Now if you look at these 2 examples, yak and ibex, they are found in the Himalayan region. In the Himalayan region. Yes, the Himalayan regions, they also have these grasslands. Therefore, in order to stabilize the pool of the soil carbon, the grazing ecosystem needs to be improved. That means we have to preserve the pastures, the high land in the mountain. Therefore, according to the study, soil contains more carbon than all plants and atmosphere combined. Soil pool is a reliable sink for trapping the carbon. It maintains the stable level of carbon, and therefore it is key to offsetting the effects of the climate change. The key stabilizing factor in soil is the nitrogen. It can either destabilize or stabilize the carbon pool. So what you have to prepare is the nitrogen cycle. Alright. Let's move on to the 5th news of the day. According to the WHO, diarrhea is actually the leading cause of mortality in children under the age of 5. And what do we do when anyone suffers from dysentery or diarrhea? We take oral rehydration solution. Now let's talk about the interesting history of this oral rehydration solution. During the Bangladesh Liberation War in the 1970s, there was a flood of refugees from Bangladesh to India, and there were camps across the West Bengal and other parts of the country to give some space to these refugees from Bangladesh. Now, what happened while working in one of the camps for refugee, Dr. Anil Mahalanabis came across rising death due to acute diarrhea. Now he understood that salt and sugar does have a role to play in balancing the osmolarity and decreasing the level of water discharge from the body. Thus, he pioneered this ORS solution, and he designed a combination using clean water, glucose and salt, which is a simple, inexpensive and effective method of fluid replacement. Now, during that time, in order to deal with the diarrhea, a intravenous fluid injection was given, which was very expensive, and considering the transportation and the logistic cost, and also the demand and the situation that the country was going through during that time, ORS, or the oral rehydration solution, it was a boon to the patients. So Dr. Mahalanabis designed a solution that consisted of 22 gram of glucose, 3.5 gram of salt and 2.5 gram of baking soda in a liter of water. And he even wrote in the journal that how ORS solution it was bringing down the fatality rate, or it was bringing down the death due to acute diarrhea. A paper that was published in the Lancet called ORS as the most important medical discovery of the 20th century. So we owe a lot to Dr. Anil Mahalanabis for pioneering this effective and a simple solution to prevent death of children under the age of 5 from diarrhea. Now let's move on to the sixth news of the day. The government plans to include Hampi and Khajuraho as the venues to host meetings as part of G20 cultural track and India's G20 presidency. Now we know that India is going to assume G20 presidency from December 2022 to November 2023, and it is going to host 18th G20 summit in the year 2023. Now the government, in order to boost its soft power and cultural diplomacy, and also as a part of the G20 cultural track, has decided to host some of the meetings in Hampi and Khajuraho. That's why we have to study about Hampi and Khajuraho. Let's talk about the Hampis. Now Hampi, a site near the river Tungabhadra in Karnataka, in the Bellary district of Karnataka, is basically a group of monuments. And Hampi during 14th to 16th century was the capital city of Vijayanagara Empire. The Vijayanagara Empire was founded by the Harihara and Bukka in 1336. Now we know that Harihara and Bukka, they had escaped, and during this time the Delhi Sultanate was ruled by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Alright, so they had escaped from Delhi Sultanate, then they founded this empire in the year 1336, Harihara and Bukka. This is how the Hampi looks, and this is the famous chariot in Hampi. Hampi is also classified as the World Heritage Site by UNESCO, and it is also known as the world's largest open air museum. The Hampi structures, they belong to the Dravidian architecture style, and the few important sites in Hampi are the Krishna Temple complex, the Stone Chariot, the Lotus Mahal, the Pita Bhirama Temple, Garuda Shrine, and the famous Virupaksha Temple. Alright, and we know that during the reign of Vijayanagara Temple, this Virupaksha deity and Vijayanagara ruler considered themselves as the representative of the deity called Virupaksha. So Virupaksha Temple is also there. You can look at this stone chariot, which is famous. The Battle of Talikota, it led to the massive destruction of these structures in Hampi, and that is why they are also known as the ruins of Hampi. Now you have to tell me in the comment section that between which two forces, or between which two group of forces this Battle of Talikota was fought. The recently released INR 50 currency note features the stone chariot of Hampi. Now this is an important point. Let's talk about the Khajuraho. Khajuraho Temple, there is no one Khajuraho Temple. There are many Khajuraho Temple in Madhya Pradesh. I mean, in that site, there are many temples. And these Khajuraho temples or Khajuraho monuments, they were built by the Chandela dynasty in the Nagra style of architecture. Basically, it consists of the 23 temples belonging to two important religions in India, that is Hinduism and Jainism. These temples are built in sandstones and in Nagra style of architecture. The famous erotic sculptures of Khajuraho, they account for only 10% of all the sculptures. Now we know that Khajuraho temples, they are famous for these erotic sculptures, and there are many theories with respect to that why these erotic sculptures were carved out on the outside walls of the Khajuraho temples. Right. This is how the Khajuraho temple looks like. Let's see the other temples in the Khajuraho, around the Khajuraho site. The first is the Kandriya Mahadev temple, which is dedicated to Lord Shiva, who is the chief deity of the temple. The Chitragupta temple, which is dedicated to Lord Surya, that is sun god. The Chaturbhuj temple, the only temple in Khajuraho that does not have the single erotic sculpture. You have to keep these little facts in mind. The Parshvanath temple is a Jain temple which is built using the sandstone, and it also holds the images of the Lord Vishnu. The other temple belonging to the Jainism are Adinath temple, the Santinath temple, Ghantai temple, and other famous Jain temples are also there. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching Tarun IAS. Have a nice day.